Hi, Ben here. Welcome back to my workshop. I'm today back onto the Niva, and the next thing I need to do is draw for the engine because I've got the feeling that it's going to need a lot more work to get this engine situated in a correct place. So the first thing I need to do is get the engine back onto the engine hoist. Right, as I thought, the engine is as close to the diff as I can get it without actually heating. But the engine needs to go back a bit more, but it's hitting against the oil pan. The gearbox is really way too high, and it needs to lift up even more to even get to the engine. Not much, but 1 or 2 centimeters. So I have to modify the oil pan, and I have to do something about the diff as well. But I've got an idea about that. But first, let's get the engine out again. Now with the engine removed, I can show you better what the problem is. The engine is already resting on the diff, and the gearbox is already way too high, but the engine gearbox is not lining up yet. That means top of the diff to the floor is not enough space. But I've got a plan. 2 plans in fact. Plan A, I came up years ago when I was still dreaming of what to do with the Niva. And that plan consisted of getting a rolling chassis of a Land Rover or something. Actually a Land Rover Defender 90. It's almost exactly the same wheelbase as a Niva. And then sculpting that chassis underneath the Niva to make it pretty much a cab on frame chassis, cab on frame vehicle, no longer a unibody. I might still do that one day, but I think I'm going to go with plan not A. Now, compared to plan A, plan not A is rather complicated, and it starts with the rear axle. See, the rear axle has got a 7 centimeter lift built in. I bought it like that, and I added a wedge lift in front to try and compensate for that, but the wheels aren't touching the ground yet, the front wheels, and the Niva is level, so I have to lift it a bit more in front, but I may not have to do that as well. So my plan is to do pretty much the reverse of what people do when they drop and bag a truck. is I'm gonna Z the frame or notch the frame. That means I'm gonna lower this entire cross member down. Everything rests on cross member. The only connection between the cross member and the chassis or the rest of the body is these two bolts, and there's a bracket in the bottom. The engine bolts to the cross member. The front diff is bolted to the cross member. All the suspension stuff is cross member. But there's a problem. I can't really lower it because the top suspension arms will start contacting the frame rails here. So I have to notch the frame rails. Nice thing about plan not A is I can actually test that without modifying everything. The distance between these two bolts is pretty much 7 centimeters. So my plan is to remove the wheels for now, remove the knuckle and the top suspension arms, and move everything down 7 centimeters and see where everything lines up. So let me remove the wheels and the knuckles and the top suspension arms, and we can see where we end up. Okay, so the cross member is unbolted. Just need to pull these bolts and it should drop. I dropped the gearbox, just get that out of the way. First I need to get the diff housing out of the way. I already moved the 4 bolts. If I remember correctly, it's wedged in here a bit. So let's see if I can get it out. Okay, so after a lot of faffing about, I lowered the cross member to 7 centimeters. The front diff is just set on here. The gearbox is out of the way. So now I can offer up the engine again, try and get the engine gearbox lined up again, and then see where everything fits. So after a lot of faffing about, I got the engine back in and I got the gearbox attached. I had to remove the diff cover because to get everything in just wasn't going to happen. The engine needs to move back a little bit more because the radiator doesn't fit just yet. I just have the notch here for the vacuum / diesel pump. Let me show you inside. Inside, everything is tilted about 5 degrees down. It's about the same as what the rear diff is. And the gearbox is in a lot better space. Yeah, that's good work. Actually, I've got an idea. It's actually the first time I think I've sat in a Niva. That's good to work. Whoop. Nice. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with plan not A. I'm going to lower the cross member with 10 centimeters and not just 7. That way I've got a little bit more wiggle room between the diff housing and the engine. The engine can't really go much higher and then it will hit the bonnet. So I think where it's now, it's perfect. Yeah, so next time I'm gonna try and figure out how I'm gonna make that drop happen. But I'm tired now. So until next time, goodbye.